这个故事如果你会听会读，那么你的英语水平足够和美国人交流了。下面我们一起开始跟读吧。
When I first started learning English as an adult, I thought the most important thing was speaking. I wanted to say good sentences fast. I wanted to sound confident. I wanted people to understand me right away. So I spent a lot of time memorizing useful phrases, practicing short conversations, and repeating common answers. I even wrote down sentences on small pieces of paper and carried them with me. But something strange happened. When I met real English speakers, I could not follow the conversation well. I could introduce myself, but after that, the talk moved too quickly. People used words I did not expect. They connected sounds together. They laughed at jokes that I did not catch. Sometimes they asked me a simple question, and I answered something that did not fit, because I misunderstood one key word. I felt embarrassed, and I felt tired. At that time, I did not call it a listening problem. I told myself, my speaking is not good enough. I believed that if I learned more grammar and practiced more speaking, everything would get better. So I pushed myself harder. I tried to speak more, even when I did not fully understand what the other person said. I tried to guess. I tried to be brave. However, the more I pushed, the more I noticed a gap. My mind could build English sentences slowly, but real conversations did not wait for me. People spoke, and the words came like a river. I could see their faces. I could see their body language. But the sounds did not become clear meaning. It was like listening to music with no lyrics. Later, I realized a simple truth. Listening is the base of everything. If you cannot hear and understand, speaking becomes guessing. Reading might still be possible, because you can stop and look at a word. Writing might still be possible, because you can think and choose. But listening is different. Listening happens in real time. It asks your brain to do many things at once. So why is listening one of the most overlooked skills in learning English? I think there are several reasons, and many adult learners share the same experience. First, listening is invisible. When you learn a new word, you can write it down. When you learn a grammar rule, you can underline it in a book. When you practice speaking, you can record yourself and hear the result. But listening is quiet. It happens inside your head. You might listen for 10 minutes and still feel like you did nothing. There is no clear product at the end. Because of that, many people feel that listening is not real study. Second, listening can hurt your confidence. When you read, you can control the speed. When you speak, you can choose simple words. But when you listen to real English, you face the truth about your level. You may miss many words. You may not understand the main idea. You may feel lost in the middle. That feeling is uncomfortable, so people avoid it. It is natural to run away from things that make us feel weak. Third, listening is messy. In textbooks, English looks clean. Sentences start and end clearly. Words are separated by spaces. But in real speech, words change. People reduce sounds. They use linking. They swallow small words. Did you eat yet? Can sound like jeet yet? Want to becomes wanna. Going to becomes gonna. Even if you know every word on paper, you may not recognize the sound in a real sentence. Also, English has many accents. A teacher in class may speak clearly and slowly, but a coworker might speak with a different rhythm. A podcast host might speak quickly. A movie actor might whisper or shout. If your listening practice is too narrow, you may feel shocked when you hear a new voice. Another reason is that many learners have a common study habit. They study what is easy to measure. They count vocabulary words. They finish grammar exercises. They check answers and feel progress. Listening progress is harder to measure. You may listen every day for 2 weeks and still feel the same. Then one day you suddenly notice you understand more. The progress is real, but it is slow and not always visible. I remember one evening when I sat on a bus and tried to listen to an English podcast. The host was talking about work and daily life. It should have been easy, but I could not catch the sentences. I could hear sounds, but the meaning did not come. I stopped the audio again and again. I looked up words. I replayed the same 10 seconds many times. After 30 minutes, I felt angry. I said to myself, this is a waste of time. I wanted to switch to something I could control, like reading a short article. But I decided to stay with it for a little longer. I told myself, just listen. Even if you do not understand, your brain is learning the sound. That night, I did not understand much, but something small changed. I started to notice repeated patterns. I noticed the host often said, you know, and kind of. I noticed how certain words were connected. I noticed the stress in the sentence. It was not a big success, but it was a clue. From that point, I began to treat listening like training, not like a test. Many learners treat listening as a score. Either you understand or you fail. But listening is a skill you can build step by step. It needs patience, and it needs the right kind of practice. One big mistake is to only listen to hard materials. Some people think, if it is difficult, it must be good for me. They choose fast movies, long interviews, or news programs. Then they feel lost, and they quit. Hard materials have value, but if everything is hard, you cannot build confidence. A better path is to mix levels. Choose something a bit easy, where you can understand maybe 70 to 85% without subtitles. This level feels comfortable, but it still teaches you. You can focus on rhythm and pronunciation, not only meaning. Then, sometimes, you can challenge yourself with harder content. This way, you train both skill and courage. Another common mistake is to listen without a clear goal. If you play English audio in the background while doing other things, it can help you get used to the sound, but it is not enough by itself. Your brain needs active listening too. Active listening means you give attention. You try to catch key words. You try to understand the main idea. You notice what you miss. There are simple ways to make listening active. For example, you can listen to one short part, maybe 30 seconds, and then pause. Try to say what you heard in your own words. You do not need perfect English. You only need to show that you understood. If you cannot say anything, then listen again and see if you can catch one more piece. You can also write down a few words you hear, even if you do not understand everything. Later, you can check the transcript or subtitles to see what those words were. This process teaches your ear to connect sound to spelling. Some learners worry too much about understanding every word. But real listening is not like reading a dictionary. In your own language, you do not understand every word you hear. You still understand the meaning because you use context, you use tone, you use common sense, you use the situation. So, in English listening, it is okay to miss some words. The goal is not perfect. The goal is to follow the story. If you can understand the topic, the feeling, and the direction, you are doing well. Still, there are times when details matter. For example, at work, you might need to catch a date, a number, or an address. In those cases, you can ask for repetition. You can say, "Sorry, could you say that again?" Or, "Could you repeat the number?" Asking is not weakness, it is normal communication. Listening also affects speaking in a quiet way. When you listen a lot, your brain collects patterns. You begin to feel what sounds natural. You learn chunks of language, not just single words. Then, when you speak, those chunks come out more easily. I noticed this when I began listening to the same type of content every day. I chose a simple daily podcast. It was about small topics: food, commuting, office life, travel, and family. The host used clear sentences and repeated useful phrases. At first, I understood only pieces, but after a few weeks, I started to catch the whole idea more often. After a few months, I noticed that my speaking felt smoother. I began to use phrases I had never memorized. They came from listening. This is why listening is not only a passive skill, it is a source. It feeds your speaking, reading, and writing. It gives you the raw material of real English. So, why do so many learners still ignore it? Sometimes it is because teachers and classes focus on what can be taught in a clear way. Grammar rules are easy to explain. Speaking activities are easy to organize. Listening takes time, and it can be hard to guide each student. Also, in a classroom, the audio quality might be poor, and students might feel nervous. But outside the classroom, we have more choices now. We can listen to podcasts, videos, audiobooks, and online lessons. We can choose topics we enjoy. We can slow down the speed. We can replay parts. We can learn in small pieces. The key is to build a steady habit. Listening is like walking. If you walk once a month for 3 hours, your body will feel tired, and you may not improve much. But if you walk a little every day, your body adapts, your muscles learn, your heart becomes stronger. Listening works the same way. A steady habit could be 10 minutes a day. It could be during breakfast, during a short break, or during commuting. The time is not the most important part. The regular rhythm is. It also helps to choose content that feels meaningful to adult life. Adults have busy schedules and many responsibilities. If the topic feels childish, it is hard to stay interested. But if the topic connects to your work, your hobbies, your travel plans, or your daily problems, you will want to listen again. For example, you might listen to a story about a person changing jobs, moving to a new city, learning a new skill, or dealing with a small conflict at work. These stories use everyday English. They also teach cultural clues, like how people give opinions politely, how they disagree softly, and how they show support. Listening also helps you feel less alone. When you listen to English, you enter another world. You hear different ways of thinking. You hear different feelings. You may even find a voice that feels friendly. That emotional connection can keep you going when learning feels slow. Of course, there will be days when listening feels hard. Some days your brain is tired. Some days the audio feels too fast. On those days, it is okay to choose something easier. It is okay to listen to the same episode again. Repetition is not boring if you use it well. Each time you repeat, you notice something new. I used to think repeating was a sign of failure. I thought smart learners should always move forward. But later I learned that repetition is how the brain builds strong connections. Children listen to the same story many times, and they enjoy it. Adults can do the same, but with content that fits adult life. If you want to make listening less painful, you can use a simple 3-step routine. Step 1. Listen once for the big idea. Do not pause. Do not check words. Just try to follow. Step 2. Listen again with short pauses. Catch keywords and important sentences. If there is a transcript, check it after you try. Step 3. Listen one more time without looking. Notice if it feels clearer. Even if it is only 5% clearer, that is progress. This routine turns listening into training. It gives you a plan. and it reduces stress. Another helpful idea is to combine listening with speaking in a gentle way. After you listen, you can shadow 1 or 2 sentences. Shadowing means you repeat the sentence at the same time as the speaker, trying to copy the rhythm. You do not need to do it for a long time. Even 2 minutes can help your ear and mouth work together. Over time, you will notice changes. Maybe you start to recognize common reductions like gonna and wanna. Maybe you begin to catch endings like ed and s more often. Maybe you understand jokes more quickly. Maybe you feel less afraid when a coworker speaks fast. These changes are small, but they matter. They are signs that your listening skill is growing. In my own journey, the biggest change was not only understanding more words. The biggest change was feeling calmer in conversations. When I could listen better, I did not panic. I could wait for the next sentence. I could use context. I could ask for a repeat when needed. I could enjoy the talk more. Listening gave me a new kind of confidence. It was not loud confidence. It was quiet confidence. It was the feeling that I could stay in the conversation, even if my English was not perfect. And that is why listening should not be ignored. It is not a side skill. It is not something you do only when you have time. It is a main road. When you build your listening, you build the base for everything else. The road may feel slow, but it is steady. And in the long run, steady work changes your English in a real way.